Okay, it is right at noon, so we'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, we are recording the presentation today, so we can put it up on our YouTube channel, and hopefully more people will join us in a minute and also can watch it later. So welcome to the Sustainable Transportation Rethinking Your Ride class. And just a little outline for today, I'm going to be starting talking about sustainable transportation in general, and then electric vehicles. And then we have someone talking about public transportation, bicycle and pedestrian projects, and then the legacy trail. So I want to thank all of our panelists for coming today. We have, my name is Sarah Kane, and I'm the Sustainability Program Supervisor for Sarasota County, and I've been with the county for 7 years. We have Miranda Lansdale with the Sarasota County Area Transit. And then we have Patrick Louie with the Bicycle Pedestrian Trails Coordinator. And we have Megan Idle High Trails Management from Parks, Recreation, and Natural Resources. So like I said, my name is Sarah Kane, and I'm the Sustainability Program Supervisor, and I've been working with sustainability now for 7 years with the county. And I have been in the area in Sarasota working on environmental work since 2005. And so first, I'm just going to start with what is sustainability. You might have heard the term, but you might not know the definition of it or what it really means. And it's basically satisfying our present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet our needs. And it's really a balancing act between people, planet, and prosperity. If we're looking at our community and we're looking at the economy, the people that live in our society, and the environment, all three of those pillars are needed to be truly sustainable. So when we're developing our programs and education, we try to consider all three of those sustainability pillars. Our Office of Sustainability actually started in 2002, and it was the first local government sustainability office in the Southeast region and in Florida for a county. And we were in the top 10 of sustainability offices formed in the United States. We started in 2006 with a roadmap to sustainability, which is our sustainability action plan that we're currently working on updating soon within the next couple of years. In 2008, we were certified as a gold green local government, and in 2015, that was the highest county in Florida at the time. And also in 2020, we did a Soul Smart Silver Award. So just a little background of, I'm going to admit people here, so sorry if I'm actually gonna make one of my colleagues a co-host really quick. I should have done this earlier. Just so that if you all see people waiting in the waiting room, Miranda, I'm gonna ask you to let them in. 1 second. In case I don't see it. Okay, I hope that works. So some of our sustainability programs that we have, our educational programs, we manage a lot of grants, and we have a big focus on energy and water efficiency, not only in our county buildings, but also in the community. We've had about $7 million worth of grant projects since 2010. We focus a lot on energy efficiency, not only for our buildings and community, but also working with nonprofit organizations and residents, and specifically low-income residents. And we work with our energy upgrade program there. We do an annual Sustainable Communities Workshop, which is going to be on November 1st this year. And I have a link with more information at the end of this presentation. We would love for you all to join us. We also do climate and resilience planning, waste reduction, and we have free classes on all of these topics: green living, solar, green building, electric vehicle class, which is like more detailed information than what you're getting today, a financing program for energy efficiency and solar, and climate change solutions approach. So if you're interested in any of these classes or any of the classes that we teach at the Extension office, Most of them are free, either in person or webinars, and just contact us and we can get you more information. So what is sustainable transportation? Why are we here today? Well, that really refers to low and zero emission, energy efficient, affordable modes of transport, including electric and alternative fuel use vehicles, as well as domestic fuels. And some of the benefits include cost savings. So we're in a period of inflation right now. Everything just really cost a lot more than it was a couple years ago. And I know everyone is kind of looking to save money. So we're going to talk about a lot of money saving tips today through sustainable transportation. So you can save money on fuel and your vehicles, reduce carbon emissions, and also improve accessibility to reliable, affordable transportation options. So why is sustainable transportation important? We're currently working on an updated greenhouse gas emissions inventory, and basically what that does is it looks at different sectors of emissions in our atmosphere, in our community, and we calculate where most of the emissions are coming from. So the Environmental Protection Agency in 2019, they did this data analysis and report that says that transportation was the highest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions in the nation. And that's true for our county too, for Sarasota County. The last greenhouse gas inventory that we did, we're currently updating it right now. It said that transportation was the cause of 49% of our community greenhouse gas emissions. So that's a big chunk. And if we can do things to reduce that, that's great. And that comes from sustainable transportation choices. So everyone can help reduce air and climate pollution by driving green, taking public or shared transportation, or using alternative fuels. And so today I'm going to talk about electric vehicles and why we should go electric. So electric vehicles are very fun to drive. If you haven't driven one before, I would highly recommend either test driving one or finding a friend or family member that has one. And you don't have to fill up at the gas tank with gas, so that's going to save you money. And that's been really vital the last year or so when gas prices have been extremely expensive. You also have lower maintenance costs because you don't have things like oil changes. You have a reduction of foreign oil and a reduction of tailpipe and life cycle emissions. They're very quiet, another part of a fun way to drive, but they're also very quiet. It's using cutting edge technology. So I'm sure you've seen that the technology of the batteries and also the technology of the charging stations are continuing to increase. And we're seeing manufacturers set goals for going all electric. This really is using cutting edge technology. It's also a stability of fuel source. You get real-time driving feedback. It's like driving a smart car. And then of course, leaving the earth better than you found it. So we'd like to get ahead of the curve by using electric vehicles. They are increasing. 12% of new vehicle sales in 2030 are expected to be electric, but that could even increase more as all of these new manufacturers start coming out with their electric goals for their vehicles. So there's going to be a lot more EVs on the road, and there's going to be a lot more options. And then we've also seen a lot more incentives just come up in the last couple months with the Inflation Reduction Act, which I'm going to talk about more in a second. And according to a 2019 study, charging infrastructure deployment will have to grow about 20% per year. So we want to keep up with demand and prepare ourselves. And according to the DOE, Florida has the second highest EV registration count. So we're going to have to do a lot to keep up with this new demand. And when we look at emissions for electric vehicles, it's really good to see where your energy source is coming from. So here in Florida, in our state, with our utilities, most of our energy is coming from natural gas, our electricity source. And we have a small amount that's coal that our utilities have said they're going to decrease even more and increase solar. we could come a long ways and really be better about increasing solar. But I just wanted to show this because a lot of people ask about, well, if I'm plugging in my car, I'm still using the electric grid. And this is where our fuel sources are coming from, our electric sources are coming from. But if you're going all electric, it is less emissions than just by plugging in and charging from the grid versus some of these other emissions that are coming from gasoline vehicles. So you can see the graphic on the right that the all-electric vehicles are creating less pollution. So it talks about pounds of carbon dioxide or CO2 emissions per vehicle. And as you can see, the gasoline is right above 10,000 emissions per vehicle annually, and the all-electric is under 5. And there are many different types of electric vehicles. So not only do we have our electric vehicle sedans, we also now have electric vehicle trucks and SUVs. And if you don't want to get an electric car, there's an electric bike option, there's electric golf carts, there's even electric boats now, and also electric lawn power equipment, lawnmowers and leaf blowers and things like that. And I just like to show this graphic because it shows you the different types of vehicles and how much gasoline or battery they're using. So you have your conventional gasoline vehicle, which creates a lot of emissions, as you can see in that third row there. And it's just only gasoline. And then you have your hybrid battery. So that's going to be something like your Toyota Prius, Ford C-Max, some of the vehicles listed here. And this is not a plug-in vehicle. This is a hybrid vehicle that uses a little bit of battery to move the car and gasoline. So it does have regenerative braking so that when you step on the brakes that you're recharging the battery. And then there's the plug-in hybrid that has battery up to a certain mileage and then the gas backup. So you can see that's creating even less emissions. And those are the ones that are like the Ford C-Max hybrid or hybrid plug-in, the Chevy Volt that goes 38 miles on battery and then switches over to gas. And then there's the all electric, this strictly just battery. And those are your Nissan Leafs or Teslas and the Chevy Bolts and the other ones that just go on all electric, no gasoline whatsoever. And there's different types of charging stations. So the ones that you see around town are going to be your level 2s. But you can also charge at home, and most of the charging does take place at home. And that's a level 1. And you can do that just with a standard 120 outlet that you would find on your washer and dryer. And then there's the level 3 fast chargers. And so those are going to charge your car in about 30 minutes. The level 2s take a couple hours depending on the charge of your battery and the type of vehicle that you have. And then the level 1s are going to be the charging that you can do at home and use that to charge your vehicle overnight. It takes about 8 to 10 hours, depending again on the charge you have in your vehicle and the type of vehicle. But most of the charging does happen at home, 81%. So if you're just driving around town during the day, you can definitely charge at your home.
You still there?
Oh, if I could just ask somebody to mute their line, please. And we'll have time for questions in just a couple minutes. And if you are thinking about driving an electric vehicle, there are a lot of really great tools online. And I'm just going to show a couple of them. Also, we are going to email this presentation to you afterwards. So I'll send you an email this afternoon that has a copy of the presentation as a PDF, and you can click on any of the links to go to these resources. So this one is a really good one. from the Department of Energy, and it allows you to do some vehicle cost calculations on your current gasoline vehicle versus an electric vehicle, and you can see how much money you can save. And I also really like this one from the Sierra Club. It allows you to pick out vehicles based on what you need. So you can plug in how many miles you drive per day, if you do long road trips, if you have access to an electrical outlet in your house, how many seats do you need? So what's the size of your family? Do you have kids? What's your budget that you're looking at? And you can plug in all of those answers and it'll give you your results. So it'll give you lots of different options of different types of vehicles that you could purchase in your price range and for your needs. So that's a really great one. And we have a list of the charging stations on our website. And also you can find these on things like websites like PlugShare, but we have quite a few stations in the county and in the city. And we're, always looking at options to increase those. We started installing charging stations back in 2011 with a board approval of using grant funding from the Pollution Recovery Trust Fund and the Department of Energy. And we have currently 18 county-owned stations that are free and open for the public to use. And we have a variety of different levels of charging. Most of them are level 2 charging. We also have a rebate available for either businesses, nonprofits, or other cities within our county. If the locations need a charging station, we do have a rebate of up to $2,000 for businesses and up to $4,000 for nonprofits to install charging stations. So if you know of a tourist area that could really use a charger in Sarasota County, please let me know, and I'm happy to talk to you about that or encourage the owner to apply. But it's only open for public locations where anyone can charge. Tourism attractions, hotels, retail hubs, shopping centers, community centers, or very big employers. And it's really exciting right now, everything that has just been passed with the Inflation Reduction Act. We have, there's going to be new incentives coming out for tax credits, up to $7,500 for not only, it used to be just new vehicles, but now offering rebates for used vehicles as well. So you can check that out. And if you are not going to go out and buy an electric vehicle after the class today, that'd be really cool if you did, let me know. But you should buy the most efficient vehicle that meets your needs when you are looking to purchase a new vehicle. You can drive your current vehicle more efficiently. You can carpool, you can explore alternative fuels, you can drive less, you can combine trips, you can ride your bike or walk, and consider where you live and work. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Miranda. We will take questions right after Miranda is done. We'll stop and see if there's any questions. But before she gets started, are there any burning questions or any questions in the chat? My fellow panelists, if you could help me with that.
We did just get one come through on the chat. The question was, does Sarasota have an electric van pool or carpools available?
For the public to use through the county, is that what you're asking? We do have electric fleet vehicles that the county employees can use, but we don't have any for public transit. And maybe Miranda, I think, is going to talk about some of those options in a second.
Okay, and Sarah, also another question. Does it cost to use a charging station?
For the ones that are currently free that I just talked about on our map, no. We're assessing them right now, but currently we have 18 stations that are free and open to the public to use. And most of them are you know, at libraries or different county buildings that you can use.
All right, those are the questions.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Sarah, for a great introduction and segue into public transit. So if you're not going to run out and buy an electric vehicle, but one of the options for reducing your imprint, and one thing that, you know, we're working on is helping to explain that you don't have to use public transit for every trip. It may not make sense for you, but for some trips, it may make sense. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the system that we have here in Sarasota County. So first, what's making Sarasota County somewhat unique compared to other transit systems across the country and the state? The traditional perception, at least locally based on our size, so this would not be accurate for a very metropolitan urban area, is that it's large vehicles, i.e. buses, traveling on fixed routes with established stop times and primarily for low income and mobility challenged riders. So that last bullet point, I think, is the part that's probably more local. In a metropolitan area, you're going to have much more frequent service and a much more vast array of riders. But today, next, Sarah, in Sarasota, we have recently, as of June 2021, redesigned our system so that it now has a variety of vehicle types. We have the large fixed route buses, but we also have 4 curb to curb on demand zones. And within those zones, they are served by minivans. Because we have those 2 types of service, the fixed route offers the established stop times that many people are accustomed to, but then the on-demand service is truly on demand. So the ride request time, the time between the ride request and the pickup, we target as 30 minutes or less. And that is allowing us to serve more rider groups. Additionally, we have some unique rider groups in Sarasota County, like our tourists. And so we have a couple other service, our Siesta Key Breeze Trolley, specifically out on Siesta Key for beachgoers and shoppers in that area. And then our paratransit service, also very highly used, considering that we do have a high percentage of seniors in our population. So public transit for Sarasota County is 4 services, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about each one of those. So our fixed route or our bus service, we have, with that redesign, we did eliminate some of our routes, and the prioritization for which routes would be eliminated was based on efficiency of those routes. And so through a study, determined that the fixed route bus in Sarasota is most appropriate for the heavily traveled corridors where you have a lot of riders who are making routine trips or have consistent schedules, what you might expect with the working population. Also connecting multimodal riders, because our buses do have a 2-rack bicycle rack on the front. We're able to connect those who may be coming by bicycle or walking or scootering. And then also connecting intercity riders are for on-demand zones, which I'll get more into on the next slide. Each on-demand zone has at least 1 bus route riding through it so that the on-demand zones can be connected to one another in that way. So it's possible to travel from the city of Northport to the city of Venice by using a fixed route to go over to the city of Venice and then make your way up to the city of Sarasota. So anybody who's not familiar with the layout of Sarasota County, that probably didn't make sense, but basically you can get from one place to another throughout the county using our variety of modes. Next, please. So our system operates Monday through Saturday. The earliest bus departs during the 5 a.m. hour and the latest bus comes back during the 11 p.m. hour. We do have select routes running on Sundays and the times are slightly more limited. We do have a mobile app. It's called the Breeze Rider app. It's available Google Play or app stores for your mobile phone. It's also a website. And with the Breeze Rider app, you can plan your trips by entering your destination and allowing GPS to figure out your current location or typing in your current location as well. And that will give you your options for routes that are within your area. And then you can also track the bus in real time using that app and subscribe to service alerts. So if your route that you typically use is impacted by whatever event, then you would receive a notification so that you can arrange for alternate transportation or to adjust your schedule. Our base fare is $1.25 per ride. There are discounted fares and passes available, but I do have an asterisk on that bullet point because we are going to have a public hearing to adopt a new fare structure on October 11th. There will be a public meeting to present the proposed fare structure the evening of next Thursday, September 22nd, and I can provide details to that at the end if anybody's interested in the public meeting. But that means that the $1.25 fare is currently somewhat tentative, as well as the fares and passes that are available. Next slide. So our on-demand service is what's called mobility on-demand service or demand response service. It is, as I said, in 4 zones. So we have one zone that covers the older area of the city of Northport. When I say the older area, I'm just indicating it does not include Welland Park, or previously known as the West Village area. The second area is Venice Inglewood. The third area is Siesta Key, and the 4th zone has a small amount of downtown Sarasota that connects over to Lido Key and Longboat Key. So why these areas were chosen is because they have less identifiable travel patterns. So it's not heavily traveled corridors, but rather it's a more spread out transportation patterns. And we have riders with flexible and changing schedules. For instance, those tourists who may not be doing the 9 to 5 activities, but rather choosing their day carefully. Also, our retired population, we find, are not doing the 9 to 5 rides as well. So areas with those populations work well for this service. I'm having difficulty remembering what I even meant when I put in vehicle dependent riders. So I'm going to have to just skip that bullet point. And if I remember what that was supposed to mean in my mind, then I'll come back to it. But also riders staying within a core area. Maybe what I meant on that vehicle dependent riders was riders who need to have quick access or the ability at any time to change their destination. For instance, if you have a child in school who may need to get picked up because the school called and they're sick with a headache, well, that wasn't on your travel plans and maybe the bus doesn't serve that specific trip. So that's probably what I meant when I typed that. I apologize that I don't recall. And then riders staying within a core area. So as I mentioned, our fixed route buses can go from one city over to the next city, but our on-demand vans stay within their designated zone. And so it's typically for shorter trips that we're accommodating through this service. And if I click again, I can let you know that it is available Monday through Saturday, 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. and on Sundays, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. This service is offered through a contracted vendor, and their contract is for every day of the year. So there are no holidays. For on-demand, you can travel Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, whatever day you need to travel. It is $1.25 per person. So it's currently the same as our fixed route service. Again, we are proposing some new fares, so that is subject to change in the next month or so. The parentheses here for shared rides is a really important aspect to point out about our on-demand service. It is different from what many people experience with an Uber or a Lyft ride, although those are also on-demand services. Typically, people ride on their own with an Uber or a Lyft. And with the on-demand service, it is a ride share, which means another passenger may be picked up or dropped off during your ride. So you are truly sharing your ride with somebody else and maybe with multiple other passengers. I will take a next. And then I mentioned we have 4 services. So our third is our Paratransit. There are actually 3 types of services that fall within Paratransit or Scat Plus. That is our ADA, Americans with Disabilities riders, our transportation disadvantaged riders, and then also we have a program for veterans who are seeking medical treatment up in the Bay Pines and James Haley VA hospitals in the Tampa Bay area. So those services are dependent on being certified or approved. An advance reservation is required. So while you can book it for your desired time, you do have to book it in advance. It's a little bit of a hybrid between the schedule versus the on-demand. And the Siesta Key Breeze trolley I already mentioned, that is on Siesta Key. It operates from the shopping village down to Turtle Beach, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., also every day of the year, and it is free for all riders. So that is everything until I had some FAQs on the next slide. So why not use smaller vehicles is something that we frequently hear. Your buses are not full whenever I see them, so we're not being efficient because we are using these really large vehicles to carry just a few passengers. So the explanation for that, the most basic reason or prevalent reason is we are required to rotate our buses. And so every bus must be able to fit its most popular or peak volume of riders. And we do have some routes, especially Route 33, which is a seasonal route and goes out to Siesta Key, that is standing room only. And so any of our buses has to be able to meet the capacity for our most in-demand route. And that is why we have buses that can meet those large capacities. How can the Uber style service be so affordable? Well, again, it's a rideshare service. And so the more people we have participating in each ride, the more efficient it becomes for us. We pay for that on an hourly basis. And so if we only have one rider in that hour, then it's not super efficient for us. But if we end up with so many people riding, that grouping them together is very easy to do when they're traveling a short distance because they were all interested in the same service area, then it becomes extremely cost efficient and a true model for public transportation. Can I board with my bicycle? I've got a little video clip going here showing how to rack your bicycle. Bicycles do have to be racked though. They cannot be brought onto the bus. There's no extra charge for bicycle, just to make sure that you pick it up when you get off of the bus. Can I pay fare with the mobile app? So our Breeze Rider app for bus riders does not accept online or mobile payments at this time, but the on-demand service is also done through an app primarily, and payment is made or can be made through the app for the on-demand service. How do I request a new stop or service area? We have an email address, scatcustomerservice@scup.net, and any feedback, compliments, complaints, service requests, welcome to go to that. Also dialing 311 if you're in Sarasota County, or 861-5000 will get you to our customer service representatives. And then I had one more that I didn't put on there, and that has to do with a practice that many people who use Uber or Lyft do is if you request a ride and then you don't really like the pickup time that you got, then you cancel the ride and you resubmit because you may get a different driver. Do not do that with our on-demand service because everything is getting routed through the same server and the formula is set. The parameters are set. So there's not going to be a different rider who gets sent to you. They are sending you the rider that is the fastest to be available. It's not somebody independent who's choosing to take the ride. So if you cancel your ride with on-demand and then resubmit, it's just going to put you down at the bottom of the queue instead of giving you the potential for a new rider. And I did see some questions popping up. So I don't know if we want to take those or go ahead and let everybody else get through their pieces. Oh, sorry.
I just stopped shared really quick so that I can look at the questions and see if there's any urgent questions. We did have a little break to answer questions. So let me pop that up and see what we can answer here. Okay. Please put meeting info in chat or follow up email.
I will do that.
Thank you. Do you find the micro mobility works better than more of a tourist shuttle like tourist shuttle bus like program? Excuse me. So oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I can answer that one, anecdotally or very specifically what we have seen, where we do have the Siesta Key trolley already operating in a tourist area, and that is a free service. And then we do also have the on-demand in that area as well. So what we have seen so far is that the trolley continues to be our most popular service, whereas the on-demand has not taken off as much in that area as it has in our city of Northport and our Venice Inglewood zones. So there could certainly be a variety of factors that are contributing to that, but that is that's the flat observation to that question is right now we have both in the same area and the trolley is outperforming the mobility on demand right now. There's also a lot of private transportation service providers on Siesta Key. So again, it may not be a really simple answer, it's probably very complex, but that's the most basic level of answer.
And I think these two are a little bit related. Can you give us a feel for riders per vehicle per week and cost of service as opposed to fare? And the next one is, can you share the current fare structure and the proposed?
Okay, so a feel for riders per vehicle per week and cost of service as opposed to the fare. So, okay, so I'm interpreting that as instead of just telling you about how to use the system, more about how the system is used. So while the others speak, maybe I will pull up some statistics and be able to give you some recent data related to our ridership numbers. Can you share the current fare structure and the proposed? So the current fare structure, I think probably going to do this. I will send 2 links. I will send one link to our fares and information page, which has the current structure. And then I will send the second link to our public meetings page, which has the information about the public meeting as well as the proposed fares. And that will save a lot of typing and awkwardness in this chat box feature because it's laid out, like a little bit more clean on the page. So I will provide a link to both of those pages and I will look for ridership numbers.
Thank you, Miranda. There was another part to that. How are these services funded? Is there any shared funding with CCAM partners? Sorry, should be microtransit.
So not having been in the transit world for very long, I'm not immediately familiar with what CCAM is.
CCAM, CCAM is Coordinating Council on Access and Mobility for the FTA. So the goal is for communities to try to network and share their funding to make sure they can expand more service. I just put the link in chat.
Because I haven't heard it, I'm going to initially say that I don't believe CCAM has been involved, but I can certainly double check on that.
She just put the link in the chat. So I think Miranda, you could check that out.
Yeah, I just wanted to know a lot of communities, and we're always looking for examples if there's any funding from social services or DHSS, not just the normal transportation funds or DOT funds or county taxes or things like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're just your typical federal and state funds, but I will double check on that.
Thanks. And then the last one, before we jump into the next presentation, is what is the difference between Scat Plus and on-demand Sarasota?
All right, so Scat Plus is our paratransit, which means it's a qualified ridership base. And I did mention there were 3 different rider categories, which I'm not going to get into try to explain all of them here, but essentially Scat Plus is a qualified service and it's an advanced reservation. And on demand is available to the public. You do not have to qualify for that. But on demand is limited to those 4 service zones. And that's probably the simplest answer.
Well, great. Lots of good questions. I'm going to go ahead and get Patrick started really quick. And then I think there was another question that just went in the chat, but we'll go ahead and answer that at the end. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, Patrick.
Hi,
See
everybody.
everything okay? All right.
Okay, excellent.
We'll get started.
Okay, so mindful of the time, 12:40, so I'm gonna try to go through mine pretty quickly so I can get to hers and we can ask questions and all that. I think most of the meat is in the questions anyway from the interaction with our participants here, but I'm Patrick Louie. I'm the Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Trails Coordinator for Sarasota County. I have over 17 years of planning experience, and the last 8 have been here at Sarasota County. Next slide. So what I do here as the bike ped coordinator and trails coordinator is I manage all of the sustainable transportation type facilities in the county, right? So on one hand, I do a lot of the planning for the sidewalks and bike lanes and trails. We get the money, we review engineering plans, and on the other side, we do the education and encouragement side, because it's a very holistic field of planning for bike ped, right? Not only do you have to build infrastructure, but you have to provide resources for safety. We do bike rodeos. We teach kids how to ride, not how to ride a bike, but the skills to ride a bike, right? So that's stopping and looking both ways, using hand signals, etc. And then we also do a lot of encouraging for people to ride. We give information about like why it's important to ride, the benefits, etc. So how do we do this? How do we manage this? Well, we manage this through 2 of our overarching master plans here. We just recently updated our Sarasota County Bicycle Pedestrian Master Plan in August 2021, and we have our Sarasota County Trails Master Plan in 2018. So these are our overarching guidelines for how we plan these facilities. Next slide. So not to bore you to death with anything about vision, mission, and goals, but I mean, this is policy related. And just to give you an idea for, what we're trying to achieve as the county is just, we're trying to create and promote walking and biking in safe, convenient, and with healthy transportation options, connections for recreation, and building facilities for all ages, right? So building facilities for young kids and an older demographic and everything in between, right? So that's our goal. We want to create a system that people want to use and a system that they can use safely. Next slide. So what do we hear? What's the, if you put your finger on the pulse of the county, what are the things that people want to see, right? I talk to people all the time that remember when one of our major roads, University Parkway, was just like a dirt road, right? It's totally changed now. We're more of a suburban going to an urban context, right? So the facilities we used to build aren't what people want now. So with a lot of public input through our master plans, we start to understand that, the general population, you'll see the graph there on the right, there are the interested but concerned, the 50 to 56% of people who ride, they really want low stress facilities. So what do I mean by low stress? They want separated bike facilities. They want wider sidewalks. They want to focus on major roadways and intersections. They want lighting, they want shade, and they want connections to the places they want to go. So they want connections to our park, connections to our shoppings, and connections to our legacy trail, which we'll get into a little later. So you see there right now we planned, the main focus we have is the plan for the interested but concerned group. That's where we're going to get probably the biggest bang for a buck in changing our modal split and changing the way people get around. We always have the people who are highly confident who will ride no matter what in any type of facility, but it's really the interested but concerned that we're really focusing on in order to build facilities that they want to use and that they want to get out and try. So next slide. So what does that look like in our master plan? Before we updated our plan, we didn't really have a hierarchy of a network analysis that we could take to developers, or when we're building new roads, how are we going to do this, right? So we looked at all our thoroughfare roads and we scored them with like 14 scoring criteria or something, and we tiered them. So we have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and that's just based on how they score, right? And we use this exercise or this map to help us with our budget planning for new projects, etc. But just because something's tier 3 doesn't mean you have to do all the tier 1s and tier 2s first. So it's organic and it's flexible. So when you're opportunistic and you get projects done, you can do tier 3 before tier 1. Next slide. So that's a behind that graph and behind that map, we have like just an example of what our gap projects are and how we organize them by the street, the type of facilities, opportunities, what's missing. So just this slide's here just to give you an idea for what the data is behind the lines. Next slide. And then what side of facilities are we looking at for bicycle pedestrian areas, right? So we're looking at a variety of ways that we implement here in Sarasota County. Shared lanes, where usually on slower roads where bikes are bikes are a vehicle that are allowed to be on the road, but people want to, we encourage people to share these lanes, right, where there's low speed. People want more bike lanes and buffer lanes, separated facilities. You might actually have physical separation in the road. And again, it's side use and shared use paths. People want these facilities to be separated from traffic. Next slide. So some of the innovative things we're doing for our pedestrian networks right now, and our ability to take advantage of technology that's out there. We scan, right now we're in the process of scanning all our sidewalks for ADA compliance, and we do that through this pedestrian profiler. And it goes and they just drive this thing down the sidewalk, and it uses LiDAR technology, and basically takes a snapshot of the sidewalk, and we can get a lot of information about the vertical lifts, if there's tripping hazards, if the pavement shifted, and then we're able to put that into a database, and then we can plan for remediation of those facilities so that we make sure our network is not only connected, but built safely for people that might have mobility issues. Next slide. So, talking about pedestrian networks, what are some of the things that we're highlighting? Some of the crossings are very important. We do have busy roads. We have to make sure we have the right type of facility for people to cross the road to get to where they want to go. It's very important for us to have safe crossings for people. Neighborhood connections is the bottom right corner. Here in Florida, we built a lot of cul-de-sacs and a lot of gated communities. So what we're trying to do is improve the neighborhood connections between neighborhoods, so that if you live in the back of a gated community, you don't have to go all the way to the front to get out. Just sort of land use and sort of design. And then the picture on the left, we want to increase our trails, right? We have a trail here. The jewel, our spine bicycle pedestrian network is the Legacy Trail. It's a railroad corridor that we've built out that connects our entire county from Sarasota to Northport. And with that, we have Megan here to talk more about the Legacy Trail and exactly all the features that come with it. So with that, I will hand it over to Megan.
Thank you, Patrick. So I'm here, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Legacy Trail, but I'm here giving a brief overview of, as Patrick said, kind of like our shared use spine through Sarasota County. Next slide. And that's just my information. What you're looking at is kind of a map of the entire Legacy Trail from downtown Sarasota to Venice, and then connects with the Venetian Waterway Park. And I'll kind of dive into this a little bit more. Next slide. All right, so just to give a brief overview, the Legacy Trail goes from Venice Train Depot all the way to downtown Sarasota Payne Park area. As Patrick mentioned, it is a former rail line. It's an asphalt paved trail, and it is owned by Sarasota County. The trail majority of the way is 12 foot wide. And then once you get into the northern area, it extends to 14 feet. The trail is just over 18 miles, and it's open 6 a.m. to sunset. Throughout the entire trail, there are what we call stop stations, which is a nice covered area with benches, and most of them have dog bags and trash cans and bike repair stations. We also have interpretive signs along the trail, and there's also several trailheads. The Legacy Trail definitely goes through a lot of diverse natural areas and habitat. We go through a state park, Oscar Scheer State Park. It travels over water down in the southern area. It goes through some dense populations and neighborhoods. And as I mentioned, through a variety of different habitats. And just briefly to talk about the Venetian Waterway Park, that's actually a concrete trail. It's 10 feet wide. It hugs either side of the Intracoastal Waterway down south there. One of the sides is just under 5 miles and the other one's just under 4. So it totals close to 10 miles of trail on either side. It's also open 6 a.m. to sunset. And on the east side of the Venetian Waterway Park, it directly connects to the Legacy Trail. Next slide. So I just wanted to quickly highlight our trailheads. There are several trailheads along the Legacy Trail, and the amenities vary. Some of them are parking lot only. Some of them have restrooms and drinking water and drinking fountains. Some of them are full-fledged parks with awesome playgrounds. We just opened Pompano Trailhead, which has 12 lighted pickleball courts and a community center, a half basketball court, playground. So this is an awesome way you can travel, you know, Pompano Trailhead is way up in Sarasota. You can travel from Venice via bike and have your pickleball on your back and go play at the park and head home. And it's just an awesome connection throughout Sarasota County. We are seeing a ton of increased use and increase of diverse use and alternative transportation, people commuting, people going longer distances. In the last, we'll go to the next slide and then I'll talk about the use. So recently in 2018, Sarasota County passed a referendum, which had overwhelming support to extend the Legacy Trail. The original Legacy Trail was just over 10 miles and ended at Culver House Nature Park. So actually just this month, we completed that Legacy Trail extension project. We finished the segment 3, which connected into downtown Sarasota this March. And then we wrapped up our connection to Northport this past month. So that's been super exciting. I just wanted to highlight the connection to Northport because we get a lot of questions about that. With the referendum, we built approximately 3.5 miles of paved trail. We call it the Northport Connector Trail. To access that trail from the Legacy Trail, you're going to take on-road facilities. So that might be a shared use road, might be a bike lane. There's a multi-use recreational trail on Edmondson, a MERT trail. So you do have to take road facilities to get to the Northport Connector Trail. But once you're on the Northport Connector Trail, it's a 12-foot wide asphalt path, and it's a beautiful, it hugs one of our preserves, Deer Prairie Creek preserves and Shoey Tract, which are absolutely gorgeous. And then you'll end at Price Boulevard. There's a bridge there and you'll be in the city of Northport. We do have planned and designed trail to extend south from, if you can kind of see on the map, south from that blue line at Price there into Warm Mineral Springs. So that will get developed sometime in the future. Next slide. Now, one thing, especially in a discussion on sustainable transportation, one thing that's super important on the Legacy Trail.
Are you gonna make me a salad? I thought you said something about that. You said we should use the ham in the salad.
We need to unmute Drew's iPad, please.
Sorry for that. We are seeing exponential growth. When we did work on that referendum in 2018, we were seeing just over 200,000 users a year. And just this past month, we are just under 650,000 users for the past 12 months. So we've seen tremendous growth, and that really jumped after the extension opened. So we know that we are seeing obviously different population of use because we're in a different area of town, but also different types of use. So I just wanted to touch on some of the etiquette, just checking the time. The speed limit on the trail is 15 miles per hour. This is super important and something we hear a lot about because, you know, the trail is shared by pedestrians, parents pushing strollers, kids learning how to ride bikes, people that are more paced riders. The trail does allow for e-bikes. So that's kind of an important conversation when we're talking about sustainable transportation. We're seeing a lot more e-bikes and they are allowed, but they do need to obey by the 15 mile per hour speed limit. We always ask people and encourage everyone to wear a helmet, warn before passing. If you're passing left around people, you should be passing single file. You don't want to block the trail and get off your bike and just stand there, and always stop and use crossings at road intersections. This one's also extremely important. Patrick kind of brought up the road crossings, and I probably should have highlighted them a little bit more. We do see, or we do have several different kinds of intersection treatments along the trail. And we do have more information about that on our website. but it's really important for everyone to stop and use the crossings. And then we do not allow for motorized vehicles, but as I mentioned, we do allow e-bikes. And as always, just be courteous to others.
Oh, great. Thank you, Megan. And thank you all of our panelists today. Megan, did you have anything else before we wrap up?
That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. I am going to send out this presentation later this afternoon as a PDF, so you'll be able to click on all these resources and links later. But you can always request a speaker for your group or club. You can sign up for more of our classes on Eventbrite. We also have our 2022 17th Annual Sustainable Communities Workshop on November 1st. And the link to join is there on our website. Also, Mobility Week is coming up in October, and that promotes awareness of safe multimodal transportation choices. So you can learn more at this website here, and our blogs are there as well. And we are on social media, so you can always follow us. And here's just some EV resources that you can check out later. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. All right. Thank you all so much. And thank you to my fellow panelists for taking the time out of your day over your lunch break to be here today. And this was really great. So always feel free to contact us if you have any more questions. And thanks again for joining us. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.